not live.
We're live?
Hey.
Hi guys, welcome to Live at Epiphan. This week we're going to be talking about
On-camera audio.
Are you sure? I don't know.
Yeah.
My name is Matt, and this is George. Every week we host a live show at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every week the show is going to change. Today we're going to be putting most of our focus into on-camera audio, which is why for some reason I'm here this week.
That's true. Every time we have an audio thing, we pull Matt out from his cave and we ask him to enlighten us on all things audio.
I mean, it's a dark cave, but
It's a dark cave, but it's got great acoustics. So.
Yes, exactly. That's why I like living in the caves.
Yeah.
So many reflective surfaces.
Yeah, and it's because it's my week on the show. I always like to dig into stuff where I get to put stuff on the table and talk about it and rip it apart and tell you why we use it.
And I mean, because he's so much of a camera guy, well, his off time at the very least.
Yes.
I don't really know if I can call you an on-camera guy. Once in a while. I mean, more of a producer side, that kind of thing. Oh, a camera's more of his gig. We just like to have a little bit of a change of scenery.
Yes.
Get the other
that's
George
right.
in here.
Yeah.
Get a little bit of the audio grumbling up on this. But if the first time watching, feel free to subscribe.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Yeah,
We already have a
to our
bunch
show.
of people watching, which is great. We have Faithfulness and Clarence and Marta and Rosenbauer and Matt and Linda and Tim Trott. So I'm watching chat here. I've got this YouTube chat open through this, what's this tool we're using again? New Blue.
New Blue.
And we have Facebook chat, so say hello, let us know what you want to talk about. We're going to have a lot of gear and we want some questions. So,
So why don't we dive into this?
you ready?
So yeah, so we've got, let's talk a little bit more of like potential setups you might run into, maybe some, so let's call it like roadblocks. You know, maybe you have on-camera audio that you can use, maybe you don't. How do you circumvent that?
Yeah. So for me, it's funny, like I've been a camera nut for years and I'm now doing so much more video than photography. So, but the thing I always end up is like, no matter how much I spec out a camera, I always end up choosing based on the audio. Because while they make these beautiful DSLRs, that the sensors and the image quality is insane.
Yeah.
The audio is like, it's like a, oh, and there's audio, and it's crap. So we're going to talk about cameras, like how to rig up a camera like this, and then give you some other options for cameras that actually have legitimate pro audio built into them. And we're going to skip some of the ones like your cell phone rig, because that's a whole other kettle of fish. Like some people are rigging up cell phones with gimbals and all that stuff, and they require a good audio solution. And we won't talk about PTZ cams and other sort of more business-oriented cams. So we'll focus mostly on like DSLRs, camcorders, cinema cameras, and we'll walk you through the gamut.
But let's talk about just really quickly before we jump into this, one of the reasons why you might be focused somewhere on the audio even when you're looking at a camera. And let's look at this in a very realistic fashion. If you're watching a video, whatever it might be, when you have the good audio, if it's good audio, you don't mind watching it even if there's sacrifices to that video quality.
You're right, yeah.
So if you got to watch in standard definition as opposed to full HD or UHD, it's usually you're fine. But if you're trying to watch something in super high quality audio, but all of a sudden the mouth doesn't match up, or everything is too quiet, or everything is overloaded, there's like grainy distortion, suddenly it's insufferable to watch.
Yeah.
Audio affects the entire world.
Well,
around
it
you.
even happened in our show a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, right, with the little...
Well, I was watching our show through headphones. They were in Las Vegas, and I was here, and I was watching it in headphones. And I bring that up because they had George in my left ear and Cameron in my right ear. And it was all too real. It was just like they were here in the office with me, and I couldn't bear it. So we wanted to talk about how to route that audio properly so you don't get that weird panning sensation of people on one side or the other. But we'll dig into that later. We have lots of comments here. We have Ratnack here and Saul and Fixed Assets. You're asking, I can even make that live.
Ooh,
No
perfect.
news.
No news, yeah, no news this week.
So the fact is there is news.
Really, there's news, I want news.
But I didn't even put it on our script. It might even be news to you. Actually, I know it's not. But we'll bring that out later. We have a little bit of product news to talk about. So we'll jump into that. We'll save that.
Okay, I'll take that.
I never know if we should do news at the beginning or the end. It's kind of a debate around here. Or no news at all.
I don't know.
But clearly,
I don't have those papers to shuffle to make myself look important. That's the problem.
yeah, you need a pen to tap on the desk and ruin our nice audio feed.
I could just start scratching the microphone. Does that help?
Yeah, Matt and I.
Comment here from Alberta.
Ooh.
All right.
How's the snow?
Yeah. So, let me tell you what we wanted to talk about first. We're going to talk about what kinds of cameras setups you might run into. So, Like this camera here on the desk, which is a Frankenstein kitted up with a big rig. And oh, hey, Cameron, nice to see. Cameron is still with us. Cameron's away for the week, which is why one of the reasons why we're here today. So glad to know you haven't completely forgotten about us.
You just left the cold weather for colder weather. Good
Yeah,
for you.
and you left me to have to figure out how to run a live show again. I'm very rusty. Took me all day, but I hope it's working good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Well, so far it seems to be looking okay. I mean, locally in the studio. I mean, for all we know, it could not be streaming at all out there.
Yeah. No, we do know. We're good.
Oh, right.
So, camera types we're going to talk about. We've got SLRs like this guy here, which have very basic audio in connections, like a 3.5 millimeter audio in. That's what I can do with this camera. But there's a few other hacks you can do with things like this. We have camcorders, which also probably only offer, what, 3.5 millimeter in connectors?
Typically, yes. There are
Yeah.
some cameras out there that do have like mini XLR, which is a little connector type you
Yeah.
basically never see.
Well, actually, I have a picture of that. Let me show you that.
Yes.
Lisa, if you pull up my desktop here, you'll see. This is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema.
Yeah,
and
it looks like the connector is almost about the size of my pinky.
it is. And what's interesting about this camera, why I wanted to bring it up, is because it's in a form factor like this DSLR, except it has global shutter. It's more of a video camera, or it's definitely a video camera. But it also has legit audio in, which is so refreshing to see on a DSLR camera. If that's what you call this, because it's kind of a Frankenstein in its own right.
It's more like a hybrid almost.
It really
It's
is.
a hybrid body with like a video camera completely in focus.
And just like all Blackmagic stuff, you still have to Frankenstein it to make it work, but not quite as much as their other ones. That was a dig against Blackmagic.
Yeah, well, I guess at least the Frankenstein is all their own components, mostly. No? No? Okay.
No.
Sorry. I'm thinking of Brad.
But
I'm
you know,
sorry.
I'm just whining because there's a lot of camera systems that are all based on you buy this block, which is basically a sensor,
Right.
and everything else comes outside of it, which is powerful, but it takes a lot of rigging. Anyway,
And money.
and money. So we have cameras like this, DSLRs, we have camcorders, we have cinema cams. So that's kind of where I wanted to start. So if like money was no object,
Right.
we wouldn't Frankenstein this thing and try to bring great audio into it. We would instead get something like, Lisa, if you wouldn't mind, this is the camera that we're using for our show today. This is a little too big. This is the Canon C100. So
Mark II,
Mark II.
for what it's worth.
For what it's worth, it's a cinema camera, which ultimately what that means is you get legit audio in and controls over this. So I'll show you what that, because we're not actually using it to bring in our audio for the show today. What did I do with that thing? Oh, it's right here.
You're talking about this guy.
Yeah. So you can pop this out of the PNP if you want, Lisa. And this thing mounts on the top of that camera, and it gives us XLR inputs
Yep.
and complete control over how to do your, if you want phantom power with them, and how to route them if you want them stereo or mono and all that stuff. So as far as I'm concerned, if you get a cinema camera, like all your audio problems are solved.
Well, maybe not all of them, but the majority of them, the most important ones.
The ones that plague us for our stuff, it solves them for me, but they don't do compression and stuff like that. So
No, but I mean, it does solve the core issue of being able to get audio into good quality audio into your video.
Yeah. So in a lot of cases, of course, if you're just doing stuff with a mixer board, you don't really care about any of this stuff. And as you get more pro, like your audio has nothing to do with your video.
Yeah.
But for an example, like next week, I don't know. I'm going down to San Francisco in a week or two.
Sometime in the future.
And I've got to bring a kit down there. And so I'm looking, do I bring this Frankenstein, which is great, super powerful,
Right.
and we've rigged it up and I like how it works, or do I bring that C100 down there? And I'm kind of on the fence about it.
I don't know. I would always stick with pick the evil you know.
Well, that's kind of where I'm at, because
Right,
I don't want to get caught like with a cable, like, because there's so many connectors and stuff on here, like suddenly something can go wrong, and
Right.
I don't like that. It's a little more
It's kind of the idea of like you really know your own setup already. You
Yeah.
understand the quirks, where it
Yeah.
falls short, how you can compensate for it, versus picking up a camera like the C100 Mark II that we're using here.
Yeah.
If you were to take that down and you run into any sort of configuration issues, whether it's from a lack of familiarity with the product because you haven't used it in a while, you haven't had to set up the studio, it could have different audio settings that you're no longer familiar with. And you might fall into the situation where like you have to do something last minute on the fly. If you're not 100% familiar with the camera or the gear that you're using, you risk running into issues where We had that show a few weeks back that
We have every fourth show.
that
a
didn't
few
run in
weeks
our
back,
favor. Yeah.
Where we don't know what we're doing and we figured it out on the fly. Okay, yeah, so I could bring this Canon C100, sorry, this Canon C100, imagine the body here. I got that right? Yeah,
Yeah.
body here. And then, because I've got XLR armpits, I have the world is my oyster. I can do wireless lavs like we're wearing today. I can do shotgun mic on here if I want. I can add a recorder on here if I want. Like, I can kind of do whatever I want, so it's super powerful. What I learned when we set up this camera, we have the producer behind the scene here making waves,
We've got
and where something's gone
we've got
wrong.
some sort of audio adjustment correct your request. What are we doing?
I'm here to complain
George,
about the audio.
George 1, what's up?
Your lav was just a little low.
A little low? Okay,
Oh, okay.
so mine's channel 1.
Is it?
Okay, yeah.
Well,
See?
So, yeah, sorry about that, guys.
audio.
How to do audio right.
So here's where you run into issues. For example, I'm doing audio all by myself when I was doing the calibration.
Oh, you were trying to test your own levels.
I was testing my own levels through me and then approximating where the audio is going to be. So
a dangerous game
like,
you play,
again,
man.
it's the evil you know,
Wow.
but sometimes you'll still not get it perfect. So hopefully it's now
Yeah.
equalized a little bit more with his levels, and it's working a little bit more effectively.
Yeah. Okay, so I've covered this guy. You have this phantom camera of the.
What about these little things here on the front? What's
Okay, this is an internal mic. So you have choices when you mic up a camera like this. You can use an external mic and plug it in through another interface or through the 3.5 like on this. Or you can use, they always have an internal mic built in.
right?
I have never found an application for that stupid internal mic. And every time I get a new camera, I try it, and every time I'm disappointed. Unless you're doing video within like 1 foot of your subject. If I'm doing this interview, maybe.
I am so pretty.
We will find out everything about Matt's pores and how his beard grows if we do that interview, but we'll also hear him properly through the internal mic, like the one on here, and even this has an internal mic.
Now,
But-
you might be okay with an internal mic if you're in a completely dead soundproof room. Right, like if you're in a vocal box inside an audio studio.
Covered in blankets.
No. Well, most of them are already dead to the point where there's
With a close talker.
Yeah, exactly. Hi. But yeah, for the most part,
Yeah.
if you hear the words internal microphone and that's your solution, just push it, push it to the side and find something else.
I'm scared to do it. And so the other one people will often do is they go, okay, great, I'll get in one of these guys.
Ooh.
I'll get the big penis mic and put it on top of my camera, like so. So you do one of these, and you do the run and gun. So you see this setup all the time.
It's called a shotgun mic, by the way.
I thought it was called a penis mic, but okay. Also known as a shotgun mic. But even then I find I don't trust it enough, unless you have one hell of a shotgun with a good enough range, but I've got to be, again, like 4 feet away from you.
Yes.
And 5 feet is going to be terrible.
Yeah, a
Or
lot of
noisy.
times shotgun mics, which are actually the ones that you normally most commonly see on like booms.
Yes.
You know, like in movie studios where they're usually one of those.
We used to have one in the studio that was pointing to us right here.
Yes. Now, most common use case for shotgun mics, especially within music studios, are used as a reference track.
Right on.
Right. So they're used on the set to do your shooting for your videos,
Oh,
whatever
okay.
else, and then all of that audio is then imported into a music studio,
Yes.
where they do all the dialogue, voiceover. They redo all of the audio within a within a sound studio, with a big projector, and people are
Yes.
literally just lip syncing or syncing up the lips to their actual vocals, and then they get Foley artists to do all the audio and stuff behind the scenes. So it's a great as a reference mic or as a small indoor mic with a little bit more control over your environment. in
But let's
terms-
say we're doing that, like we do a lot of things from trade shows. So we're on the
Yes.
floor, and I'm saying, hey, Matt, tell me about your new beard cream that you invented. And I've got one of these guys here. This is a different one. Got all kinds of penis mics.
Well, that will make me sad because that's
Don't know that it's a wireless mic, all right? Pretend you don't know.
No, forget the
Fine.
wireless mic. Let's look at the fact that this is an SM58 microphone. It's just a standard dynamic microphone. You have to be within basically 4 to 6 inches away from being able to hear
So again, I've got
correctly.
this shot again.
Yeah, and it's not the most powerfully sensitive microphone on the planet. You know, if you want to get something with a little bit better range, a little bit smaller noise floor, and that kind of thing, you're going to want to use a condenser microphone, which uses 48 volts phantom power. Now, again, the only problems you have with these microphones is they're cardioid, which means they're directional, but they're slightly kind of a broader range available.
So the short is, if you got to choose your shotgun mic carefully.
Yeah, so you're going to look for a super hypercardioid, more specifically, because a little bit more of a narrow field to stare at.
Okay.
Now, and I'd fought for it for a long time, and then someone else here decided, probably Cameron decided, that we're finally going to get lavalier microphones for the show, and I advocate for lavaliers, the little lapel microphones, as much as humanly possible, because you're going to get the closest, most consistent audio left, right, and center.
Yeah, and when I turn
Unless-
around, you can still hear me just as well, right?
Unless you're talking like this directly into the microphone, you might run into a few problems, you know?
If you got a big
Don't
long
ruffle
beard.
Your shirt, George.
Did I ruffle my shirt? Oh, I just got yelled
Yeah.
at by Lisa. Okay, no more moving. Yeah, so the most versatile, easy to use microphones.
Once they're set up.
Lots of people chatting, Linda and Stefan and Faithfulness, that's great. Some Frankenstein comments. Apparently, we got things going with the Frankenstein comment
That's
because
pretty good.
Frankenstein is, like everybody else, I made the wrong reference of assuming the monster's name was Frankenstein.
Well, it is Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, but everybody says, hey, look at the guy, he looks like Frankenstein. But every single reference is Frankenstein in pop culture is wrong,
Yes.
including the one we made.
Yes.
People are outraged.
That's a different story. I could go on a tangent about Frankenstein for a while, but we're gonna avoid that for today.
Okay, we'll save it. Where were we? Okay, so
We talked about the C100.
we talked about the C100. We talked about, so with this kind of, our option, let me tell you another story. So
Tell me a story, George. I'm
We've-
listening.
So all we had was this little A6300, which is this beautiful little camera with a nice sensor and completely useless audio. So we went to Sony and said, dear Mrs. Sony, do you have any solutions? And they said, yes, give us all your money, about $700 worth of it, and you can buy this little Sony, what's the acronym? It's like XLKBZ1. And that's not it. And it's basically a little hot shoe mount. Or a
Right.
shoehorn
Or shoehorn,
mount.
as I mistakenly call it. Yes, that's.
So you basically
Right.
can pop this into the hot shoe on top of the camera, and then presto, you have an audio solution which has 2 XLR inputs and complete awesome control over those inputs. I love everything about this thing. I thought, great, this is going to solve all our problems. And it does, because it allows me to set up a somewhat useless on top of my camera shotgun mic, like
Yep.
this, with the dead cat on it, or more likely bring in a couple of wireless lavaliers, like we're doing today, which you
Yep.
just pop in here. But they never considered that I might want to monitor that audio.
What? Why would you want to do that?
Exactly. So that's one of the things that also I end up looking at is like, how am I going to monitor this audio? Ideally, you get a nice visual monitor so you can see it, so you don't have to listen to
on
it.
this massive screen you have attached.
Well, so that's the story. I realized the only way I can monitor audio out of this Frankenstein, this monster of a camera, see that?
Carry on.
Is to set up this monitor and then use the audio out of this monitor to do my monitoring. I've said monitor 35 times now. But
Monitor.
it works, and everything seems to be good.
Now the things with hot shoes like that is they give you some boosted gain, so basically like a little bit of a preamp gain that you can play with. It gives you options to pick if you want to use a stereo or a mono type channel if you've got both XLRs or a single XLR in use. So the issue that you were having with George and Cameron in each year, that was
Yeah.
a stereo scenario where presumably channel 1 was set to left and channel 2 was set to right, which you want to avoid when you have just 2 independent microphones at all costs, because then you get this weird discombobulating,
Sorry,
it
everybody.
was like ping pong type audio. But then you also get options with being able to monitor the overall output that you use. So a little dial that allows you to
Oh, yeah.
adjust
Yeah.
that overall thing. So you get a lot more control over that signal.
And you don't have to dive into menu settings as well, because it's actually, like having an actual knob to do your audio is huge. Because if I had to navigate through the stupid Sony menu system for the audio volume on this thing, which
Yes.
is how they would do it, that would drive me nuts.
Right.
So really this whole thing is a sales pitch for cinema cameras, it sounds like. But
Hooray! But I mean, you're not just limited to the hot shoe, and there are a
Yeah.
lot of devices out there and camera sources that don't have those little hot shoe options. If you're a little bit more on the consumer side, as an example.
I got a picture.
I love pictures.
Okay. Lisa, can we show them some pictures?
Roll
Oh,
'em
darn.
up. Ooh,
Oh,
we
so
got-
this is all your comments, which I see here. That's okay, Lisa, you can share that, I don't mind.
Yeah, now we
I'm just
can-
trying to
we can
find
show
my,
how we see some of these examples, and we can paste them up to the screen.
Here we go.
Now you get an idea for New Blue.
So here's one very common option for people who want to bring in audio into their DSLR or any camera with a 3.5 millimeter input, camcorder or whatnot.
I love Zoom.
I love zoom too. So what you're looking at here is it says H5, but what's the one we always talk about, the H4n or something like that? H2n.
That's the
That's the recorder.
Yeah, you're thinking of that the video camera that has the little audio.
Oh, that's right.
That's
Yeah,
the Q4
Okay.
and the Q2.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I think it says H5 on
Yes,
here.
that is the H5.
So basically this gizmo allows you to record audio through those mics if you want, but more likely you'll use the two XLRs on the back and bring in any kind of mic you want.
So fun fact, those are actually stereo. That's a stereo setup. It is an X and Y pattern for microphones. So it is actually a stereo setup, and they're actually crossed completely.
You mean the ones that built
The ones on the
yeah.
Zoom, yeah. And they're most commonly used on audio recorders if you want to be able to have good dynamic range. So the idea is that if you were to leave this in the middle of the room and walk from one side to the other, you would actually get that proper left and right. But the reason that they do an XY pattern is because the idea is you're supposed to stay within a relative close proximity to your subject, your target. And then the further away you get, the more kind of roomy sounding it is without it giving you the proper full left or full right. So there's always a little bit of a mix of both.
You do. It's like cinema audio.
Yes. Because I mean, there's you can do like binaural audio, which is you have one microphone.
By
pointed
what?
Binaural.
By neural?
Neural.
Neural?
Anyways, the idea is you have one microphone pointed left, one microphone pointed right, and they're both panned completely left and right. And so it's the idea, the concept of if you were putting on headphones or if you were listening to a source live.
Right.
They have a lot of little random skit stories out there where they basically put like a microphone in like a dummy head to make it really seem like you're wearing, or like that the audio is coming from the room, like your left and right.
Yeah,
properly.
yeah.
And they use like a buzz cutter when they pretend like they're cutting your hair, and then they go oh cut off too much, or they put a plastic bag over the microphones to make it sound like they put a bag over your head.
Have you ever had the VR audio experience?
No.
That's amazing. Like you can pinpoint audio. Like you could point to it. Like it would be like, ping. They drop a ping glass. You can point exactly where it was.
Cool.
It's really really
Same
neat.
idea with the binaural audio then.
Yeah.
In the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Zoom is a great alternative in terms of a dedicated audio recorder. And then we did kind of very quickly reference, they have this camera, they have the Q2 and the Q4 or Q8.
Just a straight up audio recorder.
No, the Q2
Oh,
and the, Q, and
that's
the
the
Q8
camera,
are the ones
yeah,
that have like the slightly fisheye kind of
GoPro-y,
GoPro style
yeah,
camera.
yeah.
But it has the same options as like this hot shoe where you have this whole audio rig set up where you have all your knobs and your buttons that you can adjust all of your audio settings before it goes into this little sleek self-contained system. So it's just a camera, probably about slightly larger than this box right here. It's really cool.
So we do have some comments here. Stefan's talking about how he was using the Zoom H6 to monitor with the headphones.
He's going to be using it tomorrow.
Well, he said, I recently started. This is fixed assets.
Oh,
He's going to
okay.
use it tomorrow. So
Sorry,
a lot of people
sorry.
doing that. Rosenbauer is asking us to move the PIP, the picture-in-picture. I don't know what you mean by move it, but maybe we were covering up some of this stuff, so that's probably what you meant. Danny Grizzle is recommending the Behringer X Air for Dugan-style auto mix on multiple mic shows. What does that mean, Dugan-style? You with me? You know
No,
your
no.
Dugan-style references?
Unless
No.
it's a reference to a host or a specific show type, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Clarify. We would love to hear it.
Yeah. Nice to see all these people in the chat. ASMR. How do I say that? ASMR? You know,
Yeah,
that
ASMR.
ASMR beard grooming with George. That's our
Oh
next
God,
show.
let's not do that, please.
Oh, come on. I'm all in.
You're all in for ASMR?
I just like the idea of grooming beards live on the air.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
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 You could do that. You're like our expert beard groomer around here, I think.
I'm not that good, but thank you.
Okay. What else do we want to talk about? We talked about how to rig up these kind of cameras. One of the things I didn't mention is that, what was the other ones? There's a bunch of this kind of stuff that you can rig on top. So we've mentioned a couple of solutions, but there's a whole bunch. And some of them are cheap. Like this one was absurdly priced because it's Sony and it has the actual hot shoe mount, so you have no cables routing in. But there are some more reasonable ones.
I have something. I sent you a photo earlier, or
Oh, yeah,
a link
yeah.
to the website.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say you don't have an on-camera setup. Let's say you're using a DSLR or using a camcorder and it only has a 3.5 millimeter input. You could use something like this. This is the Rolls MP13 little microphone preamp. It's a desktop unit, so obviously it's not going to be suction cupped to your camera, but if you've got a more stationary setup,
I like the idea of suction cupping it. All of these things just suction down.
that would be pretty
The
funny.
whole thing is just a sphere of glass.
Yep. So it is a powered little preamp device, but it's a cheap little $60 US or about $90 Canadian, give or take,
Okay.
device that you can get on even on Amazon, and it has either the choice of using an XLR input or a 3.5 millimeter input, and it gives you access to gain control. So you notice on the last option at the bottom there's a little knob that allows you to adjust your gain to boost the signal to a line level signal, right? So if you need to be able to use something like this, if you don't have access to a hot shoe, it's going to cost you between $400 and $1,000 as an example. That $60 to $90 device is going to give you this desktop version essentially that you can essentially just connect your audio source directly and then go XLR or quarter inch out and just use like an a quarter inch to 3.5 millimeter adapted cable and just go straight into your camera and to get that audio quality that you need.
Is this what you're talking about?
That's even better.
So this is your most bare bones solution, right? If all you have is a 3.5 millimeter input on your camcorder or your DSLR, why not just use one of these and convert your signals into more usable audio?
But it only works if the camera can take a direct microphone connection. If
And
all it can take
can
is
these cameras take that?
I would have to look at the camera.
Okay.
Most of them usually come in at consumer level, which is usually like a 3.5 electret microphone,
Yes.
or just a line level stereo signal from something from a laptop or a cell phone, something of that nature. So you would still need some sort of boosted signal. So this would be great in this case to use with that Rolls preamp that we were talking about, because the signal's already at the proper level. It's already being output at a completely consumer line level.
So if you had a preamp in front of this between your mic and this, you're
Yep.
golden.
So mic, preamp, connect this and into your DSLR camera or your camcorder.
Cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, you've kind of covered everything already, but
sorry.
no, it's good. We dug in on some of the things you want to do to correct your audio. So we've talked about all the gear involved, but the things that you want to look for to correct would be check your stereo mono setup so you don't get the left-right weirdness. In general, I just put everything down the middle when I can.
Yeah, and if you have an audio setup that does use stereo, that has a full left and right, if there's options for a pan, and you can, and if say it's individual per channel, so you have channel 1 that has a pan option, channel 2 has a pan option, try to pan them at about, let's say 2 and 10
So
PM.
just a tiny bit, so you 2 cents the
so
space.
So you get an idea of
Got it,
saying
okay.
you've got one person
Do we
more
do
on
that
the
here?
side. No,
We could do that,
we could do that.
totally.
I mean, we have everything that essentially is equating to all of the microphones because they're all technically pan-centered. They're all coming into the board.
Yeah, but we could actually route them so a little bit of room
Yeah,
in there.
I could actually do that right now on the fly.
Next week on Live at Epiphan, panning.
Actually, I could actually play a test for you guys right now. I'm actually curious. I could stand up and walk around and go play with the pan.
No, you
right now.
can't because I've set Pearl up to take all the audio and just smuck it down into one mono channel.
Why would you do this to me?
Well, so it makes it easier for the rest of the stuff.
That's fair. That makes sense. Well, I'm sad now.
Yeah. Well, we've got time. We just did 100 shows. We'll do 100 more, okay?
Right. So things you need to keep in mind, obviously, is making sure that you're able to get good quality audio into your camera source, whatever that might be, right? If you're doing a line level versus a microphone level setup, right? So if you're coming out of a mixer or some sort of little mini mixer into your camera, already at a perfect level, everything's already balanced. But if you're just doing everything through the camera, making sure you have proper levels already set going into the camera, knowing if you need to do things like setting your pan for your left and right if you're using a stereo setup. But let's talk about, you know what, I haven't even covered limiters.
Yeah, so on that, the camera we're using today, the C100, they do offer options of limiters. And I've never really deployed that. Why would I want to use a limiter?
So a limiter is kind of like, I'm going to call it like the cheat sheet way of being able to guarantee that you're not going to overdrive your signal. So it's basically, if you're looking at a meter and you've got green, yellow, and red being basically overloading the signal, so you're going to get some crunch and some distortion out of it. A limiter essentially is just adding, saying a line, saying everything that goes to this line or above this line is just going to simply get snuffed out.
Yeah.
So it just prevents the overall volume from increasing too far.
But it
and
doesn't
causing
just crush it.
No, it's not a compressor. It's just preventing the noise from getting
Okay.
any louder beyond that point.
I'd like that. I could use that.
Yeah, so it is good to have, and so there are some key differences. There's limiters, compressors, and I forgot the other one, but it's another one. It's another one that allows you to bring your quiet parts and make them slightly louder, or to increase a little bit of dynamic range between your loud and your quiet bits.
So we've got our limiter, we've got our stereo settings. I mean, you can add compression, but that's a whole other.
You've got gain settings, and then you've got EQ, which is a whole different ball
Sure,
game.
dynamics, basically.
Yeah, altogether.
Lots of great comments in here. We have, let me see here. Peter is asking about what key light we're using. I don't know, that comment should come up here. We have, what are these lights called again? It's hard to look into the light and tell the name on it. There are these big flat discs. Do you remember the name of these things? Anyway, they're all just LED lights, but we throw filters all over them. So in the case of the ones behind us, we've got blue filters on it, which is why
Like so fast.
we have these lovely blue
Something.
sheen on the side of our heads.
SO-68TD.
The old SO-6TDs. But they're all just LED lights, and
Yeah.
we add colors on them to make nice key lights.
And I think you can also control the temperature and the intensity as well on the back.
Yeah. So we asked a question to Danny Grizzle about, let me turn that
yes.
comment off, about what a Dugan is, and he said it's a state-of-the-art in auto mixing, and he mentioned how it eliminates crosstalk, which is cool, right? Because we could have, so do you want to explain the concept of crosstalk?
No, that's all you.
So that if Lisa, our producer here, we could have it set up so that we basically, she could speak whenever she wants, and it would just eliminate that. Now, Lisa, that does not a personal comment on that. We want to just mute all of your audio. It means that we would be able to hear our producer speak, but you guys wouldn't. But we kind of like the producer chat. I do,
it's
at
a lot
least.
of fun.
Yeah. Danny Grizzle has another comment on here
We're all about being
You're on a roll
professional, but
today,
not
Danny.
perfect.
about. Sorry, I'm trying to use this tool here, and I'm kind of gone nuts.
Just click, you're just going to click on everything.
Yeah, I really am. Yeah.
Pick one and stick to it. Just click
First
it-
day
click it
with the
once.
new commenting
Oh,
software.
there we go.
One up.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. I should just let you do it. Can you read this comment? Effectively, the most active mic uses a side chain to auto-duck lesser active mics. Oh, maybe this is about the whatchamacallit? Crosstalk.
Right. Yeah. Focus on the speaker. Reduces the reverb by bleed entering audio chain through the multiple mic.
Yeah,
I
we should
cannot-
get you on the show, Danny Grizzle.
I
You seem to
cannot
know more
sight
about
read.
audio than we do. That's good. Not you, me. Lots of people talking about ASMR, Liz and Faithfulness, and Linda, and so apparently that's our next show, ASMR. ASMR.
Do I,
There's a little
can I
for you.
sit there and just do like one of those like quiet like beard scratching scenarios?
Yeah, we'll get some granola bars and stuff like that. Some soup.
you
Vulcanized. That's the name of our lights. And somehow Danny Grizzle knew that too. All right, you win, Danny Grizzle.
Now, I have a question, George, which still has not been answered.
Yeah.
You said you had news.
Oh, yeah. Should we do the news?
Let's do the news.
The news.
Da-da-da-da.
Cameron usually has this nice thing here with the news panel that drops in. So I don't have that today.
That's because he's in Alberta.
He's in Alberta. The news is that there's been an update for our Webcaster X2 firmware.
Ooh, yes.
You know about this because people have been asking you about this. And we're going to be talking about it more on the show and off the show as well. I think we're going to do some kind of a live video with their CEO. I guess I should announce what it is.
I don't know. Do you want to know? Something?
Webcaster is supporting a new platform to stream to. So if you have a Webcaster X2, which I don't have one nearby, but I should, you can stream to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and a bunch of places. But now you can also stream to BeLive. And you got to check out BeLive. It's a really cool application where if you want to do streams with more than one people at the same time, so Cameron's in Alberta, if we want to bring him into the show,
Yep.
It's a great way to do Facebook Live only, specific streams for that platform. So basically I log into the system, Cameron logs in, and together we can do this completely latency-free live streaming application.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of being able to get different elements or different visual elements from different sources into the same
Yeah, you
little
can kind of do
section
switching
video.
too, because you could have like 4 or 5 guests, no, I think 4 guests queued up, and you could bring them in one at a time, and you can do a talk show thing where you have all 4 of them on screen at the same time, and you can bring in comments as well and show those comments on screen, just like we do here, except Lisa does well and I do very poorly. And you can do lower thirds with it as well. So if you're a Webcaster customer and you're thinking, how can I bring in a bit of like basic graphics and
Yeah.
lower thirds, this is a cool solution. Or if you want to bring in remote guests to a Webcaster stream, it's also great. And it's like a monthly charge. I forget the fees, but it's very reasonably priced. Facebook Live only though, so that's
It
why
is,
we're
yeah.
not. We talked about doing it for the show today. We said, hey, let's do it on a show, but we realized quite a few of the people most of the people here I'm looking at are on YouTube.
The YouTube side, yeah.
So it doesn't quite work for what we're trying to do on our show today, but we'll do something specific just on the Facebook platform and talk more about that. We have
Stephen has a comment about multicam streaming with Webcaster.
Stefan, that's a great topic. We have covered that before. We did a show on, see, at least it turned on the comment there. I turned it off. I need to have my hands removed, I think. Let's keep
I'm just going to sit here quietly.
Sorry.
Multicam live streaming with Webcaster X2 on a budget would be a nice topic.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we've done that before, and we should do it again because it's a popular topic amongst you and others who watch the show. So
You also
thank
did an entire topic a while ago talking about switchers and.
Well, it's the same topic, really, right? Multicam, you got to figure out how to do the switching.
Does anybody want to lend us some really beautiful high-end Roland mixers? We'd love to play with those.
Yeah,
a
the
little
Rolands
bit
do
too.
make some nice switchers. And of course, we use our Pearl here for doing our switching in the studio, but it'd be fun to try some other gear and see how they do it.
I also just like their setup with the whole like entire lever to switch it back and forth.
It's nice to have big, legit buttons
Yeah.
to push and stuff and not do it through software where guys like me can just ruin a perfectly good program like today.
I wouldn't say ruin it, George, but
Thanks. So that was our news. Yeah, we've got the Be Live on Webcaster. And as always, we have more firmware and stuff coming up for all of our product lines. So stay tuned here on the show. We're going to be here next week. You know what? I don't think we're going to be here. Do you know where we're going to be?
I have no idea.
You don't have no idea. It's news for you. That's great.
News for me. Remember, I live in a cave with
Yeah.
lots of reflective surfaces for audio.
I think we're going to be in California next week.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
And we're going to be offsite somewhere. But we got to figure out some internet for that. As always, we've got to make sure we have good internet before we go out into the field. So,
And as an internet note, if you have to use like a mobile hotspot or something, you just need to make sure you have stable internet service provider through a SIM card.
that's
kind
our
of thing.
PSA. Yeah.
Our PSA. If you guys are using like Pearl Mini and Pearl 2 as well, obviously there's no Wi-Fi capabilities. It's not like the Webcaster X2, which does give you the ability to just link up to your phone, then off you go for streaming. An option you guys can always use is there's a little square-looking box for all the Netgear Nighthawk MR1100, I think, is the model number, which basically is just this
MR,
little
huh?
box. Yeah, MR1100. Just MR, like my initials. That's how that works.
That's right.
Essentially, you can plug in a SIM card, and then that acts as like a little hub. So it has an Ethernet connection to go from your Pearl to that Netgear, and then it also acts as a Wi-Fi. So any device like your laptop or your cell phone, you can log into the web user interface and configure and stream from there.
We have some people on the Facebook chat who I'm just jumping in on because I haven't really been paying attention here, Facebook, sorry. Be Live, people are excited about Be Live adding text effects here, so that's great.
Excellent.
So
We wanna hear your feedback.
For George, I like you, George. You know why? Because the name's George. I'm that simple. So that's really about it for our show today. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining us.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and send us any questions you have or things you want us to talk about on the show.
And until then.
See you next week. Yeah.